I actually can't see everybody. I'm just going.
Hello and welcome to this 6th episode of the Lounge. Today we're gonna debrief the battle of the Road to Las Vegas number 4, Battle of April, named Formula Bar and Grill. With me today, Jeremy and Harry, both have been on the channel in the previous lounges, so no need for new introductions. But great to see you and to have you here, Jeremy and Harry. So hope everything is good.
Thanks for having us on.
It's great. We're talking about Excel on a Sunday.
Yeah, that's what we do. Unfortunately, this is the first lounge without the case author, but I think we were all very curious to have Brian on the stream because we noticed he's a regular case author, but he never competed, or apparently I never saw his name in the score. So, and he actually published 3 great cases. So this one was again a very great case, at least for me. Quite particular, so not too hard, not too simple. At least this is my conclusion. And yeah, guys, what do you think of this case? Then we're gonna dive into to see the details. But as a general comment, how did you find it?
I thought it was pretty enjoyable. You definitely had to read the top of the description to do well on it. I must admit that I didn't. So my live experience was probably not fully appreciative of how nice the case was. But now that I've looked back at it, I think it's pretty nice.
I think you did quite well, Harry. I recall seeing you in that top 20 at least, right?
I came in the top 40 just about, but if I had read the description at the top, I might have tackled the questions in quite a different way. We'll talk about that as we go.
Sure.
Yeah,
when I saw the case at first, it reminded me of the laundry case where like first thing that jumped out was all those letter codes. I thought, okay, this is going to be a lot of text manipulation, and well, that's exactly what it was. But it was uniquely different. I mean, it had different elements of it, so I found it a great case.
Yeah, the fun thing is during the prep time, I didn't notice at the beginning you had the code string, so my mind immediately went to, okay, I need to convert the full description of the order into the proper ticket. And eventually that was actually level 6, so it would have been a good idea to model it, but I did not do so. So yeah, maybe let's go right into the case. Let me share the screen to show how it's done. So you basically have this table of orders in a restaurant. So you have your order number, the date, the order time. This ticket we're talking about, which is the short form for the long customer order, in which basically you have a sequence of 2 letters for each menu. From each item you can order from the menu. Those codes are unique, and you can have repetitions in case you order multiple items of on one item of the menu. And that's basically it. So I think it's a nice case, not too much to be understood, and all the questions are around this structure. So it's a table and data analysis case, probably. Here you have your items, the category they belong to, the price, the code, and the prep time, which is needed for level 7 only. Yeah, 1250 here, but was not so good during the day for me. So that's after I did the solve offline. Maybe I will go with level 1, and I will leave it to you guys to comment on level 1 as well and the other levels. Level 1 was obviously very easy. Asked for what was the last order placed into a specific date. So the way they did it was an XLOOKUP, putting a -1 argument to search last to first. Probably there are other ways, but I think this is the most simple, if not the among the more simple between the other options. Did you do the same thing or did something different?
Well, one of the first things I did is I went to that historical orders tab, and I think, data type cases, they do come up quite often, and sometimes the case author will be quite nice, and for example, the order number will already be sorted for you, and that'll align with kind of when the orders are placed. So that was kind of the first thing I did is I checked that, and then kind of based on my understanding of that, I did a filter and a take -1.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. And they were ordered, I think, so because I at least got level 1. So
so I used a max ifs, which in my mind I was concerned about the order as well, but with the max ifs didn't need to check that.
Went straight into the You're right. Okay, so level 1, and we already have 3 different ways to solve it. Level 2 asks how many units of the indicated item are present in the order. Yeah, I have this solved, but my logic is not correct. So I was probably lucky to have this fully solved because I pulled out the string from the table using the order number. Of course, XLOOKUP the menu item to find the corresponding code. And then I counted the occurrences. This is basically a lambda with the find behind it and divided by 2 because all the codes are 2 letters long. But I mean, this might be not correct. And in fact, this got me completely level 3. So I was lucky to have at least level 2. Curious to see you guys, how you did this. What was your main engine logic for this case?
Well, so I see what you've done here is you've used the order codes, at least in this version of the solve.
Yes.
I also, I was a bit intimidated by these order codes. They just look like strings of long numbers, and I did not pick up on the fact that in the order codes you've got WB being Western Burger and that sort of thing. So at this point, I went to the big table of data on the historical orders tab, and I using some of the new Excel regex functions, it's like hilariously overcomplicating it. Parsed out how many of each type of item I had, and in order to make sure I got everything and there weren't different types of description, I was doing like audit checks on number of rows split out on semicolons and that sort of thing. So I spent quite a big chunk of time here at level 2 thinking, how is everybody else going to do this? Are we going to see a lot of people scoring 60 on this case? I'm feeling pretty good that I'm able to do this, and then just totally missing the fact that you could get this out of the order ticket much more easily.
Yeah. So you basically more in advanced the level 6 logic, at least partially.
Yes, and however, I didn't have time within the 30 minutes to then do level 6 because of what I was doing. So it didn't really pay off for me. And I will point out one more thing here as well, which is that with the order codes, because there's a Western Burger that ends in a B, and there's some other item, beer, for example, that starts with a B.
Yeah.
It's possible to have a BB code kind of in between.
Yeah.
That's not actually.
For example, cheeseburger and beer will be CBB.
So the way I did it, at least it didn't run into that sort of thing. But that's a tripping point that I think a lot of people kind of fell over on.
Yeah. How did I possibly score everything right here? Because I did exactly what you said. So I'm looking for BB into the string, and yeah, I was very lucky on one side, but probably also unlucky because if there were errors here, I would have probably spotted them and have the correct logic in place for the other levels. Just for the reference, level 6 gave you the custom order in full and asked you to build the string actually of the code. So that was what I was referring to. Jeremy, what was your approach for this?
So I was using the time before the case started, when you have, the 15 minutes or whatever to watch the video, to examine those letter codes and trying to put myself into the head of the author. I was like, I bet they're going to have that order messed up, so that if you try to substitute the characters, that it'll trip you up. And my suspicion is that level 2 was intentionally designed that it would work without that, and then there would trip you up in a future level. So I think that's what happened to you.
Yeah.
My approach was to decatenate in lengths of 2. So I made arrays out of the ticket orders.
Okay, something like sequence of len of this.
Exactly, that's what. Now I have a lambda that I use like somewhat regularly to do that, but that's the logic that it would use would be
something like this. Okay.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Which was ultimately what I did after the case, unfortunately, and then did a count if on this, or you can also sum the equals. Yeah, makes sense. Totally.
I have to say one more thing here, which is that the game hints were very, very helpful. I forgot to lock some cells or something when I was doing this level, and it was only by forcing myself to check these rather than move on that I was able to spot it. I think the FMWC team has actually been adding these lately.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's a good idea. I quite like it. Do you guys like it as well?
A lot.
Yeah,
totally.
I get frustrated when it's not there. If you take away any ability to do any debugging, then like you're just wasting your time in future levels. I think they should provide these.
I also enjoyed a lot. That was for practice Brazilian case, the checksum at the end of the of one level. So probably doing some encoding on the answers and telling you it's all green or there is at least one wrong answer. Probably we discussed this also in the WhatsApp group. Might be vulnerable to attacks, but if there is a way to make it work without the risk of having it hacked, it will be a great addition, I think.
And just to play the devil's advocate for the other side, it gets a lot more adrenaline going when somebody doesn't know whether they have the right answers or not, I think. And you can definitely have surprise winners more often if maybe one of the top players makes a mistake, right?
To counter that point, my biggest complaint, or I would accept that as a reasonable existence, but the one thing is that we have sometimes differing interpretations of the rules, and when that happens, I think that it's really critical that you have some way to check, like, oh, is it this way or is it this way?
Yeah, one thing we did a couple of times is we had some nice like pictures on the side, didn't we? On I think Klinsmann's Isometric Chaos was the first one that did that. And yeah, anything like that that's making the rules clear, I'm all for.
Definitely agree.
Yeah, for visual cases, totally. In maybe cases like this, so data cases, it's probably harder to think of a visual representation. But yeah, also the full example is something that is really helpful. So when it takes the example input and lays out the logic step by step by also showing what the numbers look like at every step of the calculation, that's really helpful for me.
Yeah, you could have like a picture of the menu code here, for example, right? And you could circle bits of it or underline bits of it.
Yeah, true. But I'm curious to know, how do you guys use the hints? Because, for example, in my solver worksheet up here, so when I put the example, I have this let's say flag matching green if my answer is matching the example, or red otherwise. This can be done for sure for this one. There might be a way to also leverage this in a more structured way without having to manually look back and forth here. Do you do something like this, or you just go manually and that's it for the moment?
For me, I just go manually. This looks very high tech and fancy though, and I'm sure it serves you well.
Yeah, I'm the same on manual. I think there's too much variability and the types of hints that we get to automate it. But one thing you could do is just bring the hints over to your data table so that you could at least visually see them right there.
Yeah, at the beginning I had them here, then they used too much space, so I decided to drop them. By the way, I stole this setup from Andrew, and I saw that in the finals last year, so he's inspired by his setup. Yeah, I will give it some thoughts and see if I can come up with something useful. Okay, level 3. Yeah, the start of my disaster. Introduces the concept of the combo meal. Combo meal is when you have one entree, one side, and one drink, and it adds up. So if you have 2 to 2, it's 2 combo meals, and so on. For each combo meal, you have a flat discount of $2, and you are basically asked what is the price of the order, including the discount. I'm not the best person to provide the comment to this solution because I didn't match the level 3 at all during the solve. So I will leave to you guys to see how did you approach this level.
I switched to a data table here, which I don't think is the best thing to do. But it let me build the workings out in 2D, and I could think very clearly, okay, I want the minimum of the number of entrees, sides, and drinks. I think it would have been better to build this next, within the data table structure.
Yeah.
And
you mean here?
That's right. Yeah, as kind of new columns.
Yeah.
And then you could, use these workings in other questions, and they are actually used going forward.
Especially for the bonuses, I think, because there was a bonus asking the total price and also total discount. So
yeah. So when I was doing the bonuses, I was making the data tables every time, whereas it would have been much easier to just read them off the data structure.
Yeah.
I
Jeremy, something similar?
Yeah, I went with Harry's recommendation of doing the data table edition, or not the data table, but the table edition.
Table edition.
Yeah, separate column there. Yeah, and like you said with the bonuses, you could tell that they were going to count total revenue or something like that. In fact, I think I attempted to do bonus 1 or 2 and then realized, oh no, there's some discounts, there's some extra logic, so like skip that and come back later. So I think I just probably have the same logic as everyone else with the minimum of the entree, side, and drink, but it was all contained within a let formula on the table.
Okay. So at the end, I did something similar, but just pulled the entire table here. So entirely built the correct way, the way to find how many of each item. Then sum it against the type, did the minimum, and then the price discount, and then just X look up the order X. So this was nicely ready for the bonus questions to be solved.
I came up with one additional little trick that would have been helpful, but with the entree, it had a little character with a special E accent mark. So that slow you down a little bit if you're trying to match it exactly. So using a left, which I only figured out afterwards, would have allowed you to compare just E, S, or D instead of entree, drink, or side.
Okay.
Time saving.
Okay, I did the sum if, so using exactly this string in order to.
Yeah, for you, that wouldn't have tripped you up.
Yeah, more use probably to accent.
Like if you go and watch Dim's videos, I'm sure some of your videos I've seen it in as well, Lorenzo, and yours, Jeremy. People will do these they'll be very particular about doing these very micro optimizations that save 1 or 2 seconds. And
Guilty.
then, later on there'll be like a 3-minute pause. Oh no, hang on, I didn't do that right. And it wipes out the 2 seconds like many times over. But sometimes those seconds do count. So I'm not saying it's totally unwarranted.
Here I lost myself because I struggled to understand the discount thing. So I thought the problem was into the discount, and I went debugging what hell is going on. Do you need to add $2 for each single dish, not for the combo itself, but didn't match the instructions. And I didn't find at all any problem here, which was the ultimate source of my problem. So ended up not matching level 3, and so level 4 and the bonuses and everything. Because then level 4 was basically, I mean, straightforward, provided that you have the whole table set up. Asked how much was earned during a single day. In this case, I just ran a sum if using the date. You could also provide done a sum of filter. So I guess you guys did something similar.
Yeah, so this is where the payoff of sticking it on the table really comes in, because what I had to do is basically build a 9,000, I think it is, row data table to calculate the price for everything, and then sum if on that. Whereas you don't have to build that giant data table; you can just sum if directly.
I'm curious to know, how long did it take to calculate this 9,000 row data table? Was it fast or?
For me, it was quite fast. I wasn't using any volatile functions or anything, and I was using quite a good. Well, I'm using an okay PC, let's say. Whereas I think I definitely heard people saying after the case, when I was trying to calculate my 9,000 row data table, it almost crashed my Excel. So I think, if you are using volatile functions, or maybe we're on a less good laptop, it could cause issues.
Yeah, I have a quite powerful one, a new one. Didn't have the 9,000 row data table, but when, for example, copying and pasting a worksheet, it took a bit, so 2-3 seconds, which is unusual. So it was already heavy to have all the calculations in place here. I can imagine with a 9,000 row data table, probably a nightmare. So yeah, I think the benefits of adding the logic here are very important for this.
Because it was 9,000 rows, one thing I was doing was getting rid of the data table every question before I move on to the next one. And obviously, if you spot an issue and you have to go back, that adds a lot of time as well.
Yeah, me too. In fact, when I copy the new worksheet, my macro automatically cancels the previous data table. Otherwise, when the real problem was when I saved the file, I had like 5 data tables in 5 different worksheets. That was the end of my game. Like 2 minutes of the spinning circle here for Excel, which is something you don't really want into a live performance.
Have you ever had it on a case where you've run your macro and there's something strange about the case design that has thrown it off?
Yes, not this macro for copying the worksheet. This works nicely 99.9% of the times. I have issues with my formulas to pull out the data. If, for example, it's not exactly column B or C or whatever. Also, when you have multiple examples, so 5A, 5B, 5C gives a bit of trouble. And also, for example, the Brazilian cases where the case name sheet is, I think, Desafio. I need to change this before pulling my external workbook. Otherwise, it goes ref all over the place. And also here, example 5, they have exemplo 5. Like this, so you don't find it. All those minor things.
Just making a nice mental list so that if I write a case in the future,
it's not a good idea to get the disclosure of these problems. So
I run into the same exact issues Lorenzo mentions. My only solution or sidestep to that is to make sure that I never edit the actual case contents itself and put anything into a new worksheet.
Yeah. Level 5 asked how many times across all the orders you did find the following items. So, for example, here you're told 3 beers and 1 cheeseburger, which means I think it's B, not necessarily close to each other, and a CB. I found this, not difficult. In fact, this is medium, provided that the wrong logic. So I ended up having errors also here. Curious to see your approach for this level.
If I had had this on the table of data, if I'd done these counts earlier on, I would have kind of turned them into a list of trues and falses and just multiplied them together to do an and. As it is, I basically had to hook up the data table to my text extraction thing, which I just wasted 5 or 6 minutes. But conceptually, this is covered by the other ones. My kind of I'm trying not to say spidey sense was kind of going off here, seeing this one as a medium still, because obviously I'd felt that level 2 was quite difficult, and it was still at mediums all the way down here. I'm starting to realize that I've probably missed something.
For me, this was the beginning of the slowdown. I kind of cruised through the first 4, but really here I stumbled quite a bit. In terms of extracting the numbers, I do have a macro a lambda to extract numbers, which works reasonably well. But of course, it comes into an error if there was no number present. So I had to do a quick addition to that to say, like, okay, if there's an error, just change it to 1.
Yeah.
And so that kind of worked. The second challenge, of course, is dealing with the plurality of different words. So I think eventually I came to 2 separate solutions, but it just, like, time-wise took me too much. So the first solution was like subtracting the 2 rightmost characters, because it's either going to be an S or an ES. So if you just chop those 2 off, and then you can do a wildcard appendix at the end and do an X lookup onto your items table, using the 2 as the search type. So that works. The alternative solution would be just to, like, create a new column that's called plural, and then if you do your X lookup and there's no result, then you can look at the second column,
or even add them to the table itself. So you could potentially add here all the plurals.
One thing you could take away from this level 5 is that it might be good to have a lambda for Levenstein distance, which is kind of roughly how similar text is. So for instance, you could do the Levenstein distance of 3 beers with the different items in the table, and 3 beers would have a low distance to beer because lots of the letters are the same, and it would have a much higher distance to everything else. So if you, like, look up the minimums like that would kind of give you the answers straight away if that was one of your pre-prepared lambdas.
But is that kind of distance also based on the order of the letters, or just the fact that you might find them?
So the way it works is if you need to add a letter, delete a letter, or replace a letter, then that counts as kind of 1 extra distance. And so to get from 3 beers to beer, it's 3 deletions. So that's a distance of 3. But to get from cheeseburger to beer, it's probably you're deleting like 8, or you're replacing 2 things and deleting 6 things, right? So it'll be a much higher distance of 8 or 9 or something.
Okay.
All right, MEWC community. Which one of you will post the first Levenstein lambda to the
I'd be
WhatsApp group?
surprised if it doesn't exist on the internet already. We could just grab one. But yeah.
And if you assume you need to look like BE 5 times X ERS,
that would be 5
beer
deletions. That'd be distance of 5.
Okay.
Well, 6 for the S.
Understood. Yeah, that's a nice idea.
I've just made it pub. I should have kept that to myself.
Coming back to Jeremy's comment, it was quite brutal here. So I said, like, if this is greater than 1. No, first of all, I substituted I pulled out the beers. So I probably did the text after this and space, something like this. And then I said, if this is more than 1, just take the left of this land -1. otherwise entirely. And then hard coded the fries thing because you had an errors with fries also if one item was purchased. Yeah, not the most elegant solution, but did the job. But I had the wrong logic in place at the beginning to then scan the orders. So and yeah, I did the same thing. So built the checks all over the table to then look up the truths and count.
Now,
Yeah,
I'm a latecomer to the regex functions, but I think that this case is a really good one to get your feet wet because it's some relatively simple patterns. So if you haven't done it yet, like this is a really good one to try it out.
Yeah, I'm a no-comer to regex, so I need to study from 0 to hero if I want to sharpen up my regex skills. Level 6, disaster. You need to build the order code from the, let's say, verbal order. Yeah, I think, Harry, you already stumbled across this need in level 2. So
I glanced at level 6, saw the example answer was one of the level codes that I'd avoided until that point, and decided I've got 6 minutes left. I'm just going to do the bonuses. If I had understood what this was, I probably would have attempted this as well.
Yeah. 6 minutes, I think, were more than enough to do also this manually, with a bit of a chance of data entry error. But I think a lot of people did this manually during the day. Me too. I did some of them manually. The shorter
compared to
ones.
the length of time it took me to write the extract text thing, I think it would have been quicker to do this one manually.
Yeah. Jeremy, did you approach this on the day or after the?
Yeah. So this was the one that did me in, and as usual, it's like you're fighting against that clock.
Is that your phone, Jeremy? Sorry.
I'm sorry. It's yeah, it's my daughter's laptop. Someone's calling her on Discord or something. So where was I? Yeah, trying to figure this out. I had a model that was getting built. I had a few tweaks in the model. I was having problems, and like if I had 30 more seconds, I would have finished this whole thing. But just ran out of time, and it killed me. Which is so frustrating when you complete the case and like you figure out a way. Oh, like I could have done this in 2 minutes manually, or yeah, this one just got to me, got under my skin.
What was your approach, by the way?
I did a data table, and I did split text split. Sorry, using like the comma space, a space. Okay. A couple different. I think there's 4 different delimiters that I used. And then basically the logic would have been the same as level 5, where you're just extracting numbers, looking up the codes, and combining them with a repeat. But it's all way easier after the time pressure constraint is taken away.
Yeah, I think I did a quite different approach. I mean, I did after the case, but didn't took me too long. I actually parsed the string one letter at a time, and as soon as I found the one of the possible items in the menu, I stopped parsing and I resumed parsing from an empty string. Looked up the quantity just before the product found, and yeah, then basically concatenated all the items found into final string. So not sure this is the most efficient way, but when I need to analyze strings, my mind directly goes to this kind of approach.
Yeah, I was going to say,
probably 5 minutes.
Of the cryptography challenge that Dim set a while ago, and what my answer workbook looked like. It's this sort of build up one character at a time thing is it pops up every now and then.
Yeah.
I'm going to start calling you the LLM because you're thinking like one token at a time. It's kind of fun.
And level 7, was, kind of hard level. Probably not so hard as the other very arts we have seen, but still more than hard for sure. In which basically you get the orders as they are given here in this sequence. You get an order time, you get the items ordered, and you need to figure out, considering the maximum capacity of the restaurant, which is, I think, 20 slots simultaneously, how long does it take to process each order? I will leave to you guys to see how did you approach this.
Well, the first thing I'll say is that this is out of 4 rounds that we've had so far, 3 of them have had lots of guessable answers on level 7. So I've clearly not learned this lesson because I didn't read level 7, but I think it's absolutely worth reading level 7 even if you don't get anywhere near it.
Yeah. And I think here you have a nice column of 210, 210, 210, so your mind could go directly to 210. And end of the story, it was probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 correct answers, which is quite a bit considering it is 9 points each. So.
And to be honest, I think that's not far off the best you could expect to do in the 30 minutes after you've done the other 6 questions and the 5 bonuses. Like that might, I don't know whether it would have gotten you a first place in this round, but it's getting you pretty close.
You mean level 1 to 6 plus bonuses plus these 9 guesses? Probably yes. Also solving for the first 10 was quite easy because you are told that in the first 10 orders you don't have overlaps between each order, so you can just take the order time, take the maximum preparation time of the items, add them up, or sorry, it's just the preparation time because you're asked how much time is passing, and you will get 10 answers. And I think Andrew and I got those 10s right, as opposed to guessing. And then the other 10 require custom logic, which was probably hardly doable in the 30 minutes, I think, in the level attempt.
Quite intimidating to get a wall of text on a level. Although it's always nice to see 3 different examples. Well, depending on how complicated it looks.
Yeah, because example 7C gave you the case in which you had an overlap between the orders. So yeah, you had all the ingredients to see what was the right approach. Sorry, Jeremy?
Yeah, that point you're making is, I think, really what separates some of the greats among us between the greats and the goods. They're able, just under pressure, to be able to calmly analyze that data, come up with a strategy that makes sense given the time constraint, to be able to say, hey, I've only got 3 minutes left. How do I squeeze out more points and come up with that strategy is something that I've never been able to do. So kudos to those people.
Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately,
it doesn't really always come across on like solves that people do later and that sort of thing. But when you're actually competing in this and you're seeing that timer and it says submit this in the next 90 seconds, it really puts you under a lot of pressure, and it's quite difficult to slow yourself down and read. Well, I find that anyway.
Yeah, me too. By the way, the way I did that is first of all splitted the components of the order. I did a 2-column this to have all the orders. So one row, 1 item, not one order, and also the start time of each, the order time of each item, and then I built this table, which I think is kind of similar to some screenshots I've seen in the group, in which you basically take the last 20 orders which are still active, take the first available slot, so the minimum of those times, and then do the max with the order time. And then I went crazy because I was doing this sort of a recap table in which for each order you have the order time and the end time. But instead of having the order time, I had the start time, which was not good. So I was not matching the logic, and quite sure it was correct, but was just summing the wrong column. Initially, I was tempted to model the 20 slots, so one column for each slot, and then model the allocation of the item to the slot and also the timing to finish it. Probably this is way simpler and time efficient. But again, no way to do that in 30 minutes, in my view.
This is the kind of thing that so when I think about how difficult a question is, I sometimes think about it in the way of this is all the places it can go wrong. This is the probability that it goes wrong in those places. And then you imagine they combine multiplicatively, right? And if you know a little bit about numbers multiplying together that are just smaller than 1, you know that grows really, as in it grows away from 1 really, really quickly. So it's like with every additional extra step that you have on a level, the difficulty goes up like exponentially in a way, right? And often that will result in a 0-point reward for the entire thing.
I'm curious now, my natural question would be, what are the elements you consider that can add up in terms of adding layers of complexity when you design a very hard question?
So that there are things like in the I'm just wild about Harry case, for example, where you were parsing out lots of stuff from text. There were points where you could trip over, if you did a text split, for example, the full stop at the end. One example, I'm only going to talk about this one because I'm very familiar with it, but in Lana Goes Ice Skating, for example, there was speed going on. There were rules about stopping under condition 1, under condition 2. I probably should have made that a lot simpler. But every kind of, like, if you were to imagine writing it as for me, if I was writing it as a computer program, it would be the number of kind of brackets I'd have to write for if statements and loops and that sort of thing. So I'd think about it in kind of what's the minimal representation and kind of how big is that, or the minimum kind of sensible representation.
Yeah, makes sense. Also, the edge cases could be something that add an exponential level of difficulty to a question.
Yeah, there can be.
Then ultimately they translate to if statements.
There can be subtleties in the wording that kind of add on to this as well, right? Because you're not necessarily doing this as a challenge in a fixed time, in where you have as much time as you want to look through it and understand it. But things that wouldn't usually be a barrier become a barrier under the time pressure as well.
Yeah, agree. Let's have a look quickly at the bonus questions. So, I think at least not all of them were quite straightforward in my view, because I mean the first one is just a count of the maximum occurrences of the date in the order table. So there are probably lambdas to do that quite quickly nowadays. Bonus 2, total revenue. So here we commented before, if you have the logic laid out in the table, it's basically for free. And also I think bonus 3, because asks for the maximum number of orders containing at least one combo. So yeah, you can count if on the combo column, or check whether the discounted price is different from the undiscounted price. How much discount? Again, I probably sum the discounted price and the undiscounted price and did the difference. And this was very funny because on average, how many entries are ordered? I had like 3.2 something answer. I wrote 2 here. Don't ask me why I wrote 2 manually. I was so shocked about not matching level 3 that it was gone. My brain as well.
Yeah, I kind of agree. So the first one is, this is a typical bonus one where it's a short formula, right? And the other four, you almost get them out for free if you do the table approach. You can almost just highlight it and read off the status bar what the answers are in some cases. So yeah, they're all fairly easy as bonus questions go. I think personally, I tend to set quite hard bonus questions because I usually, because I write them last after I've done the levels, and I'm by the time I've written all the other levels, I've thought of, oh, wouldn't it be interesting if we asked them to do this? Wouldn't it be interesting if I asked them to do this? But I think sometimes it is, and it probably usually it is better to have to kind of hold yourself back a bit and not make the bonus questions too hard, because they are meant to be quick, right? They're not many points.
You also have the factor of potentially just not having anyone being there to reasonably solve. I mean, maybe Dim or Andrew are finishing that bonus 5 sometimes, but in this case, it's funny you guys say that these are almost free points if you have the data set up. I had the data set up, but I stubbornly stuck around on level 6 and wasted all my time and left 150 points on the board. So easy. I can't. I'm just kicking myself.
Yeah. By the way, did you know? Because I found this trick recently. Harry mentioned here, bottom right, you have all the statistics, so average, count, maximum, minimum, whatever. Did you know that you can just click here and this goes into the clipboard, so you can fire it copy pasting? I didn't know that, so it can avoid you problems in data entry. Which is
say that again. I didn't catch that.
Oh, so I said something new. If you manage to get your panel here bottom right, you just need to left click on one of the metrics, and you have it to fire into the clipboard, so you can just paste it.
Yeah, that's a new one to me.
I didn't know that as a never mouser.
Yeah, I saw that on an Instagram reel. To be honest, one of those reels where they say 3 small tricks for Excel and whatever. Apparently, I learned something new from that, so there was value.
I have seen Andrew Nye, while he was a 3-time in a row world champion, using the mouse. So I can't get too up on my high horse about not using it, but it, it's a fun thing to talk about.
Yeah. Often the first question I get asked when I say to people that I do this thing is, so you don't use the mouse? I mean, that's not a question, it's a statement. And I answer, no, I use the mouse because the world champion, the former world champion, uses the mouse. I think also Michael Jarman uses the mouse. So I am legitimated to use it for sure.
Do you use the mouse, Jeremy?
I do use the mouse. I try to use the keyboard wherever it makes sense, but it's just one of those like use the best tools for the object at hand kind of situation. I'd really like to find out if there's a good way to toggle the anchors on a cell reference, but just the left or right ones. So if on that bonus, on that level 7, there was a situation where you had to anchor the top and copy and paste it down. And I always like fumble the keystrokes somehow and end up with, again, I know we're just talking micro automations, Harry, but just really small timing problems that trip me up. I think it's more that it causes me to I don't know, waste time on the thinking of it more than the time saved.
Do you find it disrupts your flow of thought?
That's right. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say right now. my flow of thought is disrupted thinking about these stupid anchors.
Yeah, and so I think Giles actually put in a send keys macro that I don't know if it did exactly that, but it did something a bit like that. One thing that's a bit tricky is interacting with the formula bar is difficult to do programmatically. And you don't really want to be using application.send keys if you can avoid it, because it's it kind of acts asynchronously with you, and things can go wrong if Excel isn't in the state you expect it to be in, and that sort of thing. So you definitely build something, but Excel is going to be a limitation. You'll have to have some sort of trade-off with what you build, I think.
Yeah. Oh, that's my daughter again.
Getting called on Discord again. Yeah, before going into the live, I was discussing with Jeremy that actually Briar apparently never played in a battle or in a competition, but is actually designing very nice cases. Also spot on in terms of difficulty, because not too hard, not too simple. Probably on the harder side for sure, but not extremely hard. So we were wondering, it's not easy, I mean, to tailor the difficulty without any real experience in the battles. So I was very curious to ask him directly, but fortunately couldn't make it to this live. But I don't know if he's the only case of an author who is not actually competing in the battles.
Well, you've got Andrew G, of course.
Yes, but it's the founder, so it's kind of into this. I can expect it from him, but
yeah. So typically when they have a guest author for like the finals or something, Andrew will work really closely with them and try to get that difficulty quite right. And it sounds like it's quite a lot of work to get that working. And I kind of, from when I've written cases, I can say it is a lot of work. And if you haven't done them before, then I'd be very surprised if there was someone who hadn't at least kind of tried them in their own time that was writing cases at this level. So I think he most certainly has at least looked through and probably attempted a lot of other levels, but maybe not on the lives, or maybe he's under a pseudonym and he's actually someone that we know in disguise. That would be quite fun as well.
Well, now we have to figure out, community-wise, who is the most likely person to be this mystery man, Brian.
So it's always interesting trying to profile a case author as well, because this is the second one that's had this kind of take pairs of characters or groups of characters out of the longest string, because he wrote Mortal Wombat. Yeah. Now that I think about it, the other one he wrote was Temple of the Golden Idol, which there's no way you can write that without having tried other cases in the past, other maze-based cases. Like there's just no way you could have written that without understanding the Excel group as well. But the whole Temple of the Golden Idol's thrown me off now. I was I was about to say he likes kind of data game cases, but maybe not.
I think it's dangerous trying to predict what the author means to the upcoming case. I mean, we tried this with Harry Siders. We've tried it with you, Harry. And it hasn't seemed to pay off.
Well, one thing you can always be sure of is there'll always be a monkey somewhere in my cases.
Much love to Lana.
Yeah, one theory that Kobe had in the chat, for anyone who's not seen it, was that he's big on 90s stuff, is Brian. So Temple of the Golden Idol was similar to some sort of like 90s, I don't know if it was an arcade or a console game, and that this one's quite similar.
Or sort of an Indiana Jones thing. I don't know if that's the English name as well for the, that man going into the old temples. Not very familiar with the topic, but
to me,
the Mortal Wombat is an arcade game. This one was not sure if it is recalling any 90s thing.
So somebody had a theory about it, I think, but I can't remember exactly what the name of it was. But obviously, Mortal Wombat is Mortal Kombat as well.
Yeah.
For me, it was similar to the Nickelodeon game show on television. It was Legends of the Hidden Temple. And you had teams like the Blue Barracudas and I don't know, Silver, whatever. But the characters go through these maze tunnels like to accomplish different objectives. But game wise, I don't know. Yeah, Indiana Jones theme wise makes sense. You have like Pitfall was kind of, I don't know, or was it Prince of Persia? I don't know, some games that it kind of remind me of going through a temple of some sort and getting treasure, but very Atari-like in the map design.
I'm keen to see whether we'll have any more Brian cases. Like, he wrote one for the finals last time, so we can't rule out that there'll be one at the finals this time.
Yeah. Well, he's a good case author.
Yeah, totally. It was the brackets. It was the last 16, not sure, of the morning session, the semi-final case, and this one. So the sooner we could get is again during the online rounds, not sooner than the online rounds, because one case author per. I mean, you can have at most one case into the Road to Las Vegas. This is my understanding.
Yep.
Yeah, if I mean, putting myself into the shoes of a case author who is doing multiple cases, I would be worried to have some sort of predictability in the patterns or the topics or whatever. So this is an additional challenge for the case authors. Still thinking of the topic for the first one for me, so I'm quite distant from the first case I might author.
Yeah, I do that, and I also worry as well about writing a case that's similar to something somebody else has previously come up with. Like, I'm very much, I don't want to repeat anybody else's work. I want to kind of add something with my case, and it's getting harder and harder to do it. 30 minutes isn't very long, and I think people, there's a lot of preparation for map cases and so on that makes designing something new not only difficult because other people have written similar cases, but also because people have prepared kind of slightly general things that would also immediately work on the new levels.
So your guess is we're gonna see less map cases because it's
I think
it's
people like they like writing map cases because it's quite different from work, right? It doesn't feel like work when you're making or doing a map case. But the other reason I'd hesitate to say that is because the visuals on the screen for a map case when they're doing the live finals and so on are desirable. People enjoy looking at that sort of thing a lot more. So I think they kind of get the priority. It might be that we have to extend the idea of what a map actually looks like and what being a map means. So I'm
quite worried by this. What do you mean?
I'm not going to say very much more than that, but maybe. Well, one thing I can say is in the case FMWC UK released one of the free ones, All's Well That Ends Excel. We tried to make it visually appealing in kind of other ways as well. So we had like art of curtains and things like that. And that's another way you could make it visually appealing, and you could have a non-map case in the finals, I suppose. If you can find copyright-free images that look like what you want to, which is actually really hard.
Yeah, when you were saying about the different concept of the map, my mind went like into 3D maps as opposed to 2D maps. But if you think of that, we had already had something similar. I'm thinking of the Portal case, in which at the end of the story, it's like a 3D map with the layers being the worksheets. So also that has been explored. If I was to compare that to a 3D map, it was probably on the easier side. So there might be ways to make it a lot harder. But I'm quite scared to brainstorm out loud this concept and and give some inspirations to the case authors in that sense.
I think it's time for a time travel case.
Oh dear.
I don't know what that would mean or look like, but it sounds complicated.
In the financial modeling World Cup, we had the general relativity case by Michael, where there was like a time dilation affecting the depreciation of things. and the existence of a general relativity case means that a quantum mechanics case is coming one day, and I don't know. I don't want to know what that looks like. So yeah, I'm sure though there are lots of interesting things in our future.
Yeah, next battle will be in 1 month.
Is kind of lots of new friendly characters for the existing characters that we have to hang out with. You know, this case maybe didn't have as much of the storytelling as the first three did. But you know, in general, the trend seems to be more and more storytelling, and I quite like that.
Yeah, there's definitely an artistic addition. When you get more creativity, it's more entertaining. Maybe not as a live solver, but certainly as you can experience it afterwards and appreciate it better. And don't do like I did and just delete all the graphics from Harry's Excel, all the ends Excel case. Major fail there, but yeah, I do appreciate a good artistic story or visual appeal is good too.
Yeah, the sad thing is that the next battle for the World Championship is in more than 1 month, so we will have to wait a bit. Yesterday we had Brazil round 4, which was very nice. They introduced this new concept of the X battle, in which basically you get punished for posting wrong answers. The same amount of points you will get if the answers are right, you get those points deducted. Actually had quite an impact on the scorings, but a part of this mechanic, which I'm curious to see if that will be tested also in other competitions. My mind went to the case we had yesterday. On one side, because I was a character of the case itself, because you had merchants, you had Dim, Liana, Jean, and me selling food products like in a market. And the case was entirely based on bid and ask prices. So you sell for X, you buy for Y coins. And I mean, with such a simple idea and structure, they were able to build quite a complex case. It was definitely on the other side because you had to build combinations, you had to apply custom logics for the discounts, the maximum amount. So yes, there is for sure an amount of storytelling, but also the easy concept can be leveraged as well to build cases which are a challenge for the entire field, because even Dim didn't solve it fully in the 30 minutes. So that's a testament to the difficulty of the case. So also the local chapter, I think, are increasing the difficulty.
Yeah, so we can be a bit more experimental when writing stuff for local chapters, because you know it doesn't have to be necessarily as easily readable by everybody. It doesn't necessarily have to conform perfectly to the exact case structure like the main ones do. And I think that's quite good, right? You can end up with some sort of cycle where it ends up making the main World Championship cases a lot more fun, like on average, because all of the wrong turns are being, and all of the good turns are being found in the local chapters.
Next one for the UK will be on the 7th of June, right? According to my calendar. Is that correct, Harry?
I am not sure off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
Yeah, which is the same date of the first battle from the DAC chapter. Understood there is going to be something joint, but not sure if this is public news. We should skip entirely this topic. Okay, no comment. No comment. We will clip this out.
Right. Yeah, we'll clip this out of the live. Yeah. No. The other thing that's picked up a lot, especially since Vegas 2024, is there's a lot more people posting videos. There's a lot more coverage of all of the stuff that's coming out. And I know that Dim, for example, he's got like an enormous list of things that he's showing occasionally, and it's difficult to get through everything. Are you guys finding the same? Are you covering everything that you kind of want to cover? Are you having to be selective?
Well, me personally, I'm having my own kind of identity crisis with my channels. With so many people coming out with these solution videos, Dim has this kind of live solve angle. Other people's have like super highly optimized solutions, and there's several of us doing that kind of style. In fact, so I'm looking for my own kind of differentiating factor. I have some ideas out there, but I've just been, I don't know, sidelined for a little bit. One idea I have is to maybe like compare multiple videos together and say like, okay, in a small section of a case, like let's say level 6 or level 7 for this latest one, explore the different ways that people did it, and then give like a reaction video or something like that. But it's just some ideas.
That's kind of what we're doing now a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
As well. Yeah.
That would be very nice, because I feel the same exact as you, Jeremy. So not sure if I can call it identity crisis, but yeah, I mean, yes, there is value in posting 5-10 different solves of a case, but I agree, if you don't have your own angle, it's, I mean, there is marginal benefits, diminishing returns in posting 10 different solves. So I share the same feeling. I think this one might be very useful and value added. On the other side, it probably takes much longer to do a video like that. So, but are you preparing something, or is just an idea you have in mind?
It's just in the idea stage right now. I did a recording of my solve for this latest one, and then I just kind of sat on it, and I'm thinking like, you know what? There's already solutions, 10 different varieties of it. What am I adding to this? And also the fact that I was doing some marginal amount of editing, trying to add, titles and, sliding caption bars and things like that. It was just, initially it was fun, but now it's more tedious. So I don't know what to do yet.
Yeah, an angle might be more for a training purpose, maybe for beginners, which is not really an angle I see that much. I don't know. Not sure it's something that I like. So I think you also need to like what you do in order to make it sustainable. Otherwise, you will end up being tired too soon. I probably lost the connection for a few seconds.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. You've got to make sure you're happy first, and that'll then hopefully be reflected in a good useful output, right?
Yeah. Otherwise, an angle not for you, maybe for me would be to do videos in Italian or in local language. That might be an angle per se, but doable also only for people which are not native English language speakers. So not sure like that. I would see that as a betrayal for my historical audience and for the wider community. So I'm not gonna do that.
We saw on one of the Chinese video sites there was a guy who did the finals in Chinese, and it absolutely blew up like like nothing else. I don't know like whether the Chinese audience is particularly like into spreadsheets or something, but yeah.
I tried very hard to have him on the stream here in the lounge together with Ben, but at the end we didn't make it. So yeah, I wanted to. I mean, I would have 20 different questions to understand how the Chinese YouTube market and MEWC is seen, but it's hard to reach that person. So we didn't manage to bring him on the stream, which is a pity. But yeah.
How many? We've had 4 rounds. Is it your top 5 rounds that count towards your seeding? So we're starting to get a really good idea of roughly where people are going to be. I think I'm hovering around like 20 or 25 possibly after the 5th round and 6th round have come. and that scares me because that means I'm up against like one of the top 10 seeds probably. If in that 32 round. Have you guys been thinking about this? Have you weighed up roughly who you're likely to be up against?
I know in my case, the mental focus is just making sure that I'm top 32. Like in the last 2 years, I was up against Dim and Willem in the first rounds, respectively. So I haven't ever advanced past that, and I'm would love to have a chance to go deeper into the tourney.
Yeah, not yet, to be honest. I think we will have a clearer view on the seeding after round 6 or 7, because with the next one, the people attending the full 5 rounds will have, let's say, complete scoring for the seeding. But there are a few people, for example, you or other case authors, who didn't have the chance to play at least 5 rounds. So round 6 or round 7 will be probably where Andrew and you, I don't know, whoever missed another battle would have the proper score assigned. So that's the moment of the truth, the first moment of the truth. After that, I expect the ranking to become a mess, because I mean, for example, I went from being number 7 to be number 22 with just a big fuck up in this last round. So I think this will not count out of the top 5 scores, hopefully. But yeah, it might happen something similar when everybody has at least 5 scores to leverage. It will be quite thrilling, I think, during summer to see the seeding going up and down.
As I recall, in 2024, there are a lot of new names of people we hadn't recognized before winning as well, right? So just because you're a top 32 seed, it doesn't necessarily mean you're safe as well.
Yeah, that's definitely true. There's and more coming every year. So now there are names that we know from last year that would have been new. And so the crowd is growing ever more. So it's good to see the whole league flourishing. Though I'm glad to see the quality of the competitors go up and the quality of the cases continue to be really high.
Do you think the cases are continuing to get more challenging in terms of the asks on average?
I think so. At least the trend is there. So there is a positive drift in terms of difficulty, I think. Not so huge, but I think there is. The other thing that I was thinking is, for example, when I started, it was late 2022 and started doing seriously in 2023. I mean, there were a bunch of cases, probably a good 40, 50 cases to be solved. If you get into this today and you're willing to invest a bit to buy all the cases, you would have probably 150. So at least my library is more or less 150 cases. So if you're willing to put in the money and the time to solve them, the increase in the rate of getting up to speed is really there. So a new competitor entering today might have potentially more than 100 cases to solve and can get up to speed very, very quickly, as opposed to having 20, 30, which of course gives you a very good sense of what the competition is like, but it's not comparable. So I think we will see more competitive people and also more quickly because they're going to get competitive quicker. At least that's my take.
Yeah, the case availability, but also the YouTube, videos, the proliferation of all the videos that we have. Lambda libraries are out there. People are more familiar with those things. So I definitely agree with that point.
Do you think there will be a moment in which, I mean, we have all will ever be in a very open community, so no one is hiding, no secret whatsoever. Everyone is sharing everything. Do you think there will be a turning point in which this is no longer true, at least partially and incrementally?
I think
we're partially already. I'll let Harry go first.
Oh, I think if the money really starts to rack up a little bit higher, you might start seeing things like that. I know Dim has expressed to me before that he thinks there might be like a group of like recluses out there who just like optimizing for this sort of thing, and they're rich, so they don't have to like anything else to do in their days, and they would just spend every day like optimizing to win this prize money. Which I don't know if that's true. I can see why he'd worry about that. But it is true that you see these sorts of people on like the advent of code stuff, right? On coding challenges, there are these groups of people that are really, really into it and go very hard to win any winnings that there are. And are you saying you're hiding something, Jeremy, when you're saying that people are already doing it?
I admit to nothing, but my perspective my perspective is that there's got to be some like that's a trade-off. Like personally, when you talk to me about it, my feelings are like, I love this sport and I'm glad it's here, and I want to make sure like I help it thrive. So from that aspect, I want to share my knowledge. There's also the factor of like giving back. Like people like Dim have been super like selfless with giving away all these secrets and helping us grow as people, both professionally and in the sport. So I want to do right by that and continue to do that. On the other side of things, though, this is a competition. I am a competitor. I want to win. I hate losing. And so there's a little bit of me that wants to hold back a little bit sometimes. Now, I've been trying not to, but maybe I delay the release until I get to use this Lambda once before I show it to anybody or something like that. So I don't know. It's a trade-off. I try to do the right thing, but I certainly could see if money becomes a bigger factor, that would be a bigger concern.
Yeah, I think you're right, because it's not black or white. I mean, it could be also a gradient. No, you could be 98% open with everything you know, but keep that 2% that maybe you think might give you an edge for some kind of case. And yeah, going forward, if the money increase, probably we would see a shift of that percentage towards, I don't know, a 50-50 or I don't know what. Yeah. The other thing that scares me a bit is the progressions we are making with AI, because I'm a bit scared that in a couple of months' time there we will see people going into full solve with the O3 model or whatever of OpenAI, which I think is very close to be capable to solve an entire case with a few prompts. And that would be a pity in my view. And I think that the FNWC team should start thinking how to protect the game against this, because yes, now you can use AI, but if it turns out to be who uses AI fully solves the case in 20 minutes, I mean, there's no point in incentivizing it further. It's like chess. Engines have solved the game, and so engines are you cannot use engines during the games, and there are ways to detect the usage of the engines, which is either you play live or there is an analyzer of the moves you do to see if you're using an engine or not. It's not exactly doable the same thing here, but there might be ways to ensure you're not using totally AI to do this. Curious to know your point of view on this.
So I work quite closely with the AI stuff, and in particular in effectively processing and cleaning a really complicated data set with it. And I think you're kind of right. So I think if you just were writing a case and you weren't thinking about AI at all, you could very easily write something that it could do. And what I mean by something it could do is I think what it's good at is problems that it's seen before. And it might not have to have seen them, especially with the newer models, in Excel before. But if it can translate it, while keeping all the logic into a domain it understands, like in, for instance, it's hooked up to Python. It's quite good at writing and understanding Python. Then it would be able to solve a good portion of cases. That said, because I've worked with it so much and I understand where it falls over, I think if I was trying to, I could write even if the AI got massively better, if there wasn't a paradigm shift, I could still write cases that were doable by people in 30 minutes that it couldn't do. But that's because I have that expertise, and it would be more work when writing the case. And you can imagine the version of this, if you don't have that expertise, might be to try using the models on it while you're writing it. Obviously, not everybody has access to the models, and then this sort of thing as well. It does. I think it already, you could, if you were so inclined, and I don't think anybody in the community would be at the moment. You could write something that translates it more into a text problem that you then give it. And if you were good at coding and you understood this stuff, you could build a system like that. But it just gets away from the whole Excel World Championship and the whole kind of point of competing, right?
Sure.
So the kind of, what are the incentives to do that, other than I'm just going to use the word being a tech bro, right? Or alternatively, if there was a financial incentive to do it. I think if it becomes necessary to do this extra work on the cases to prevent this happening, that's what people will do. But it would be more extra work for kind of no extra visible output, right? So it's kind of like a lose-lose situation you get pushed into.
Yeah, that's interesting. I for sure don't have the experience that you have with AI. My fear is that when you say it's not necessarily good at solving problems he never saw before, it might be the case today, but not be the case anymore in 6 months, 12 months. And I'm quite sure that no one in this room or among the, let's say, regular competitors prioritizes the let's say, I don't know the English term, but I think you get the point. Is not willing to cheat and use AI to win, but is respectful of the game mechanics and the honor code. My fear is that someone new will use that and disrupt completely the rankings and everything, and maybe ruin a bit the game. So that's my fear. But yeah, we will see. Jeremy, do you have an idea on this?
I have a lot of ideas actually, but now you've brought up the latest one. Let me tell you, like, flat out, like, my goal last year at the finals was to be the first person using AI, like if there was an opportunity to present it. So there are people out there, I'm one of them, who just see it as a tool and use whatever tool is the best for solving. Now, it just happens to be that maybe it's not there yet, and for most cases it's not the best tool yet. It might be in the future. So I share your concern, but my perspective is that it's a challenge for the tournament directors and for the case writers more so than for us to worry about. I think AI is going to be a large part of our future as professionals, and that's kind of how we all started in Excel to begin with. I mean, we used Excel for our jobs, got really good at it, and now we do all the fun things with it. That's just going to be enhanced by AI in the future. If you go back 20 years ago, 15 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, these lambdas would seem like some new cheating function that just would disrupt everything, impossibly. So I just think that it's going to evolve, and yeah, we should be adaptive to it. I share some of your concerns, but overall, I think it's just something that we have to live with.
Yeah. I would be curious to see how it works with competitive programming challenges, because at least from my understanding, these models are getting pretty good at solving the competitive programming benchmarks. So they're scoring like 99 percentile or something. So there might be ways to prevent this approach into those kind of competitions.
I can talk about this for a long time, but I don't know if the lounge is the place for it. Yeah. So people do use it at work, for example, and it's a lot. It's like when you're talking to somebody, right? Language is just a means to what you actually mean, and it's quite clunky and it's quite difficult to communicate exactly what you mean in a small number of words. So the devil is very much in the detail and in the context and in just a general understanding of who you're talking to and what you're doing. And a lot of that kind of isn't available for the model at all, right? And okay, there are ways around that if you specifically build and plan around that. In terms of the coding challenges, you'll get a lot of reactions to this. So one of the things is when these benchmarks are first hitting the 99% on coding and things. If you zoomed in, it would say, 100 shot attempt, right? Which means they tried it 100 times and at least one got it right.
Okay.
That's coming down more to 3 or 5 shots now on some of the benchmarks.
Okay.
But specifically, it's coming down on ones where the questions kind of very thoroughly and in great detail explain what's going on.
Okay.
In quite a mechanical way. And these are also things that fall into patterns that appear in lots and lots of textbooks. So I know I was using the example of when you're adding up 2-digit numbers in your head or multiplying 2-digit numbers. Once you get enough practice at that, you really start spotting and exploiting the patterns a lot more than following a general algorithmic process. And actually, these models kind of are doing the same thing in a lot of cases, right? They're looking for kind of general patterns. One example that the community will be aware of is Dim, not his cipher challenge, but he had a understand this lambda challenge that he was doing. And one of the things that we tried that really tripped that up was replacing the variable names, which were originally, it's kind of the right letter for what that item would be. If you just replace them with a random set of letters or a random set of variable names, then it loses all of that statistical guesswork which actually is almost built into how it's understanding it, and it starts kind of making up nonsense. The other thing about that is it's very difficult to tell when it has made up nonsense, and while it making up nonsense is a problem, that also therefore is a problem. And as I said, I could talk about this for a while, but I'll leave it there.
No, it's very interesting and also reassuring, because now that you say out loud a few details of why it could go wrong and also the, let's say, nitty-gritty behind the benchmarks, it's a bit reassuring.
I will also mention the incentive structures when people are posting their benchmark results, right? Like if they don't have the best model, the investors are going to run to their competitors. Sure. Right. There's been a lot of people releasing benchmarks and then the community actually trying the models and saying, you sure this is the best model? There's kind of a lot of that going on all the time as well.
That's cool. Yeah, by the way, I tried the DIMS challenge, the Understand the Lambda one, exactly with it was 01 in that date, because I had no idea how to do that. I said that to Dim, I'm curious to know whether ChatGPT got it right. It did. You're saying that by changing, like misbehaving the large language model by putting wrong variable names, or I don't know, something that might deceive the understanding is actually giving it troubles, which is a nice thing to know. Yeah. I mean, probably there will be workarounds for this, so the AI models will learn how to avoid these traps in the future. But it's looks to me like overfitting the data set in which you are trained. So I don't know.
It's
I don't know
very
the topic.
much coming out of the whole process, right? Grab a lot of data, do statistics on it. It's inherent to that approach. When I learn something for the first time, I'm not getting millions of examples of it and doing statistics on it, right? I'm taking patterns that I already know and I'm kind of changing them somehow. And the two approaches to understanding things, they're both universal function approximators, which means mathematically with enough data they will turn into the same thing. But in practice, with enough data, when you're talking about, just even think about the number of different sentences you can write in any language, right? The amount of data to cover every scenario is bigger than any physical number, at least with the current statistical methods. So I think it very much needs something new, some sort of new element in order to solve some of these problems.
Understood. Well, we will see what is gonna happen with the next ones, but that's good to know for sure. Okay, guys, any closing thoughts for battle number 4? Otherwise, we can.
It's good.
Yeah.
I should read the description on cases before I attempt them. That's what I've learned.
That continues to be true for me as well. So that's the biggest reminder.
Jeremy?
Okay, guys, Jeremy.
It was a great case. I'm really looking forward to finding out who the real Brian Wright is. Maybe the community can go nuts with their conspiracy theories until we find the real guy.
Well, I have a LinkedIn connection with him, so apparently he's a real person, but didn't manage to get any answer. So
I don't know if that really
I will
follows,
keep you posted.
though. Does it really follow that if they have a LinkedIn account, they must be real?
Yeah, doesn't hold true that statement. Okay, guys, it has been great to have you as usual. Thanks everyone for watching. We will see for sure with the brief of Battle 5 next month, but maybe also sooner than that. And yeah, thanks all for watching. See you next time. Bye.
Thanks very much, everybody.